Have the questions, ask whatever you need. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you very much for that. Hey, everyone. Thank you very much for being here. It's a bit about me. My name is Hassan Akram, and of course, I run City Careers Coach. What do? We help people get into elite careers. So PE, StratCon, and of course, VC. So what am I here to do today is help you get into and advise on getting into elite VC careers. So who is this presentation for? It is for individuals looking for investor roles. It's not for individuals looking for, say, BD, platform, marketing, tech, or whatever. It is just for investor role. So a bit about why I guess we're qualified to speak about this. I am a VC recruiter. In London, I work for Kia Consultants placed into top VC firms. So to give an example, we work with the likes of Atomico, Accel KKR, amongst a number of others, GA. And just from that, we've got a very strong understanding of what it takes to get a VC investor role. But secondly, we've seen granularly, of course, recruitment is a funnel. You've seen granularly what it takes to excel at each stage. Now, of course, that CV stage, case study stage, and offer management stage. So, how competitive do you think it is? Well, I guess, phrase better. I've got a current VC I'm recruiting for. The role was open for 2 hours on LinkedIn. How many applications do you reckon we got for this one role? 2 spots on the shortlist for Harvard grads, of course, today. But how many people applied for that one role in 2 hours? I'll give one more answer, then we can see who gets the actual because it's so close. Yeah, sure.
1,100.
Oh, mate. If it was that easy, that'd be amazing. But no, it was around 1,200. So there you go. Straight from London, 1,200 in 2 hours. Build it. So, yes, we had 1,200 people apply. And there were a lot of actual investors who applied, but also people from entrepreneurial backgrounds too. But the key takeaway is it is exceptionally hard, but it is very possible to get into VC. And that's what I'm focusing on today and what we'll look to do hopefully shortly. So let's look at routes into VC. Now, with this presentation, there's multiple different routes in. What do you reckon clients have a soft bias towards in terms of recruitment? Is it MBB? Is it a product background? What do we think?
On someone who already did VC before.
Yeah, definitely. What else do we think?
Not traditional background.
The honest answer is someone who can generate great deals. Obviously, being in VC prior is fantastic because you literally know the ecosystem, you'll have great contacts in that pace, but non-traditional backgrounds are fantastic too. And this is what we'll talk about now. So IBD is very standard. For instance, there are numerous people from, say, Goldman Sachs' TMT team who we managed to place across. The only slight challenge of that people who are from IBD, the thing that they face is they may be perceived as being too bankery. What do you guys think that may mean from a recruitment perspective? Sure.
They don't have a network of entrepreneurs which focus on model.
Yeah, I think you've answered it very well. They focus too much on the numbers. They don't focus enough in terms of the broader commerciality. What we look to assess for, and we'll go into a lot more detail on this, especially for coffee chats with initial recruiters, is demonstrable investor acumen. Because in IBD, on the sell side, you're advising on the sale, but on the buy side, you're buying stuff. It's really about looking at upside, downside, and having a strong and effective conversation on that. That's one route. Secondly, StratCon, of course, like MBB, is good because generally speaking, they have heightened commerciality. That's because of the very diverse range of clients they work with. Secondly, this is a big generalization. Because of the focus on interpersonal skills, they generally have stronger and more developed interpersonal skills. So if you were to send across someone to a client, they'd be pretty happy because they know there's someone here who's got strong interpersonal skills and is quite broad in commercial outlook. So then there's product. I personally really like people with product background. I think they're great. Why? Because ultimately, and I'm sure there's some investors here as well, what makes a great VC business is ultimately establishing product market fit. And probably who is the best equipped to achieve that? I would say a product manager. I think they're really good. And they also sometimes combine a technical skill set too. Then, of course, there's MBA. MBAs are great because, of course, they have a track record of professional experience. And the big advantage of an MBA network is, of course, you're at Harvard, you're at Yale, you're at LBS, you're at INSEAD. There's a very developed network you have, which you can bring across to, of course, a client. And ultimately, the name of the game is origination. If you can bring that through your network, say incubators or otherwise, that's fantastic. The only slight downside of doing an MBA, and this is for some clients, not all, the view may be that they've spent 2 years at university rather than 2 years investing. Now, hustle is my favorite one. I think it's great because you see some really unorthodox stories. So what do you think hustle could mean from a VC perspective? Please shout out from a recruitment perspective.
Startup experience.
Yes, but I guess to be more granular on that, what do you think that could mean? Yeah.
Potential future deal flows. You get you like really good at connecting with startup funders, getting deep in the network community.
Yeah, I think that's fantastic. I'll share a case study of someone who demonstrated hustle, and it's fantastic. So just to wanted to compare with VC, it's not like corporate law where you need an academic qualification. And it's not like PE, because PE, you need to have developed financial engineering skills, like modeling. VC, if you're doing early stage, I'm sure investors here will know, growth equity, yes, you may need to financial modeling, but early stage, you don't. So I'll share an example of hustle. There was a chap who actually helped get into VC, Shinaz Navaz. So he went to the London School of Economics. However, he went after to Deloitte, which is a good institution, but it's not McKinsey, Bain, where the brand can take you very far. He was cognizant of this. So what we did, we recognized that it's unorthodox. You'll probably struggle to get into VC because from a client shortlist perspective, everyone's got GPAs of 3.8, everyone's got a first-class degree for elite careers. It's a big controversial statement which is being recorded, but in my view, it's not. Because when I hire people, I've had people from the University of Oxford PhDs. It doesn't necessarily mean you're going to be good at a job. So what we did with him, and hustle, firstly, he started to, I'll touch upon this in the presentation later, write articles. It cost nothing to write articles on Medium. He was really interested in EdTech. So he wrote about EdTech trends. He wrote about 10, 12, which is good. He was developing a track record. But what he would also do, which is really cool, is we basically created a plan where he would have lots of coffees. It could be Femtech, EdTech, SaaS, just have conversations. What we recommended, have like, I think we had a spreadsheet of about 150 people. He managed to have coffee with 30 of them, which is really good. But what we would do in the next stage, instead of being transactional, where you're just there taking, like, hey, you're amazing, I want to learn from you. What we decided to do was say at the end of each coffee, say, is there anything I can do for you to help your fund? Anything at all. I could do paper copying, I could do DD, I could literally go out and just look to originate deals for you. So literally acting like a VC, even though he wasn't a VC. A lot of firms actually said no, but there were a couple of firms who were like, okay, great. We're an EdTech firm. We're looking at trends in education in Bali. It'd be great if you could do a small research report for us. He did that really well. Then he was asked to do more work, did it well, more work, did really well. In 18 months' time, when Emerge Education required another associate to come on board, he had developed such a strong relationship. It made no sense for them to instruct a recruiter because they knew he was good. But it was just very simple. DM people, use your network and hustle. It's hard, but it is possible. But that's a really great story. And Scout, I wasn't sure why Samantha's written Scout, but it should be outlier. I've heard of people be in sales getting to VC. Like, I'll be frank with you, if you're in a fund and if someone says to you, I'm going to ring 1,000 founders a week and I'm going to set up coffee chats with you. Likewise, recruitment. If you're a recruiter, said, look, I really enjoy speaking to people. I really enjoy speaking to founders. I will go out and speak to so many for you. It's possible. I've heard of real estate agents do it. But the key fundamental thing of VC, whether it's Harvard, Oxford, UCL, LSE, is origination. Deal flow is king. I think there's many different routes out there too. There's a long-term one, which is having a business, selling it on, and having loads of contacts through that and moving laterally. But these are the main ones. Do we have any questions here on this? So let's go to the next one. So what recruitment looks like internally. This is the question we get asked so much by clients. So just for context, so a Apollo or Atomic, they will never handle a recruitment process internally. It just won't make sense because they look at thousands and thousands of CVs. They just don't have the HR resources to support that. So they will therefore hire us to be the intermediary to recruit for them. So I'm genuinely curious, what do we think recruitment looks like on our side? You're great to hear. Yeah, sure.
I think you reach out to a ton of people on LinkedIn with typical profiles.
Yeah.
Reach out, you see who comes in the filter, you speak with them for 15, 30 minutes, and then you pass on the good ones to the firm.
It's a great answer. You should probably join recruiting. That's a great answer. Anything else?
Yeah, sometimes it just looks like a tweet. So you're posting that you have a role and people slide in people's DMs. I think Twitter VC is very real, and sometimes some jobs in the VC space get found that way. But I think, as Kelly mentioned, there's other more traditional ways of outsourcing the recruiting process.
Just a no, sliding into DMs works. Okay. VC, it works too. I got my very first client from CCC sliding someone's DMs. It works. But in terms of what it looks like internally, I think just to add to your point, the firm that we worked at, they used this very advanced principle how they did stuff. So we would have a candidate universe of applicants we would target. So for VC, it would probably be Bain, BCG, McKinsey, MBAs. We'd have like MBA books, I think Harvard, LBS, INSEAD, and a couple of others. And from there, we'd have a database of contacts. We would go then a step further. And again, this is just for our organization. This varies from organization to organization. Sometimes we get referrals from individuals in the market who would say, this guy's really, really bright. Then we'd build positive referrals about them and then build quite a sophisticated database about who is really good and who we're looking to go forward to. The buy side is a very small world. So you'd get people giving definitely positive referrals, but conversely, negative referrals definitely happen a lot. Because how it would typically work, to be frank, we would say, let's say we were recruiting someone from Goldman Sachs, is a third year at Goldman Sachs, say, hey, great catching up and having coffee. Is there anyone standing out so far from the analyst class in the year below? And some would get really granular. What we would ask for is comments, not just on their financial modeling ability, but also from, say, their interpersonal perspective. There was one candidate I specifically remember, someone saying she's developing her financial modeling skill set, but she's fantastic as a team player. Every Friday, she brings in Krispy Kreme donuts, which is amazing. Everyone should do it anyway. She'd bring that in and she'd make everyone come out to the pub and go for a drink. That was really well noticed. And that is something that, it's a data point for us to look at. So yes, it's very granular. So yes, one, we create market maps. Two, we interview candidates on a day-to-day basis. So literally having a 1 hour coffee chat, finding out more about them. So we would assess for a number of things there. So quite literally, one, how they come across. Two, their investor acumen. And thirdly, their commitment to VC. And I'll go into a lot more detail, but for me, if you want to go into VC, you absolutely categorically have to have startup experience. That is how I look at things, because it's a very, in my view, an unconvincing narrative that you're looking to go into VC if you haven't worked with early stage startups. But for me, there needs to be evidential data points, whether it's working incubators, if you've mentored startups. So yes, we'll go into a lot more detail on this, but we'd categorize candidates as there's either green, good, or star. This obviously varies, and maybe A, B, and C, 1, 2, or 3. Green is someone who may not have developed investor acumen. They just may not have a strong understanding of stuff as much as someone who's good. who may have something else, and instead of a star, it's just an all-round profile. I'll go into this in a lot more detail shortly. This is really important, super important. Now, going for a candidate coffee as an example. So I don't know how many people here have been to London. Amazing. So you know the Wharf pretty well, Canary Wharf. Amazing. There's a spot called Le Pan, the French pastry shop in the Wharf. There's a specific spot recruiters go to there. Why? Because you always get a table, and there are actually like slight things or wooden things up where there's a relative level of anonymity. So from my side, it's like going again, like the very small things make a difference. Like, is your shirt ironed? Really basic, but these things make a difference. Do you come in with a beaming smile? Are you engaged? Do you look tired? If you are tired, it's often in most terms, very generally a rational explanation. You probably had a very late night working, but all these things make a difference. For me, because we literally would meet so many people, my tactic was always to remember one specific thing about them. For guys, it was ties. I always wore a guy from the Ferragamo or a Hermes tie, which was me. But everything you do is assessed. And in terms of the conversation at interview, what we did, we would literally write a profile on each and every individual to back and give data on every single point. So to give a live example, recruiting for Emerge Education right now for a VC role, we want to be able to give a thoroughly academic and consultative response to the client. For instance, the guy was now 27, 28, but he did international relations at St. Andrews. That's really interesting. Why IR? And then he mentioned, because coming from his background, he really wanted to look at things from a more sociological perspective and a philosophical perspective. That's really quite cool, because you can talk to a client and say, hey, yeah, obviously super bright, went to Barclays. I can't say too much more because I might get an anonymity way. But these data points make a difference. They add color to a candidate profile. But in short, we write profiles. Well, we tend to write profiles, interpersonal skills, technical skills, and give an overall view of the candidate. So to give an example, in a client shortlist, what we would do is give typically 5 candidates to the client. Some chose to do 7, but from our perspective, it's a bit of a choice paradox thing. When you have too many, it becomes challenging. So we typically have 5 candidates, and we would typically rank them in saying this is the best individual in the cohort for X, Y, Z reasons. But this person is an outlier, but we think they're strong. I'll give an example of this right now. With Emerge Education, we have shortlisted 4 candidates. I'm reserving 2 for HBS. Reserved 4 candidates. 3 have direct buy-side experience in VCs. One's in Dubai and 2 were elsewhere, but great places. But the 3rd person, who is never actually been an investor, but what she has done is shown complete passion to her career. She qualified as a corporate lawyer, but that wasn't for her. She then went to do an MBA, which is fantastic. She then worked at a startup incubator. She then has subsequently made angel investments. She has then worked for a diversity organization where she creates programs to get into VC. And within that, she creates masterclasses on deal origination, effective networking, and the like. For us, we thought she was really strong. And when we sent her across to the client, they were actually really happy. So yeah, it always does vary. But cool, what clients want? It's a big question. What do we think clients want from a VC perspective? Sure, thank you.
Kind of like a relentless spirit, I've heard, like really about grinding, being like persistent.
Yeah, persistent this is amazing, because that's literally deal flow is king, and just be able just to write loads of emails, ringing people. That's super key. Yeah. Anything else? Yeah.
Being really proactive and having
Yeah.
a good intuition and good investments with that.
That's a brilliant point. Could you just go into some more detail on that?
I guess intuition in terms of like what are the non-negotiables you're supposed to look into?
Mhm.
Like what would be a type of startup to invest in and what not to? Because I guess like with so many VCs you could potentially invest in, so you'd want someone who's very efficient, who could look at one account and already be able to conclude if something good to invest in or not. So I think having an intuition is important.
I think that's a great point. I think it's a rational and educated response to investment. That's really good. Brilliant. So it's very simple. I guess before going to this, which one do you think would rank highest from a client perspective? So yeah, why so?
If the whole idea is to be able to like get people who can like source more deals in the future, and ideally you want to work with someone who has like partner potential, right?
Yeah.
Having partner potential means that you have the ability to generate more and more money for the fund.
Mhm.
And so if I'm hiring somebody, that's what I'm looking for in mind.
Yeah, I definitely think that's a very vital point because fundamentally it's about longevity and having a pipeline of talent that can achieve and excel in each work stream for sure. What does everyone else think?
Number 4, generate deal flow. Mostly the clients are the partners, so they are already able to raise a fund if you have a new partner. They're sure what they really need is to focus on the fundraising, while someone else can help them really bring in deal flow and help them gain that variety of funds and be able to pick and choose as an investor.
Yeah, great response. Yeah.
I think it also depends on the size of the fund. Like I imagine for teams that are less than 10, 6 would probably be the most important because you find that with smaller teams, you have to do more than just deal flow, but you also have to be able to collaborate. You have to be able to do things that you might not necessarily want to do. And so I think cultural fit may be really important if it's a smaller fund.
I'll talk about this in a moment. I'm not more deep checking my camera, but cultural fit is absolutely critical for all funds because fundamentally the team are just so small. There's an informal rule that they just don't hire a bad apple, and they just won't do that. If I hallucinated. Yeah, sure.
I'll just say cultural fit. That's just my hands.
Yeah, I was going to say cultural fit, but that's hard to judge. But then practically, I would say can pitch and work with founders. I think the first part can pitch. If you can pitch well, it shows that you have good intuition about investing, like you said, which will be super important. And work with founders. I think that also is people want to be able to bring people on board that they can work with, and that's something that makes people like really want to bring you on board to the team.
Yeah, that's a great point. I'm trying to get hallucinated. So, yes, I think all points are really valid. The soft part, again, is subjective. Recruitment is fundamentally an art. It's not a science. Clients want different things. People may challenge what I say in this presentation as well. I'm very comfortable with that. It's different for different things. So, I'd say number 1 is of absolute importance. It's being structured and clear as a thinker. Battery. That's absolutely critical because what they want to see is someone who has an understanding and can communicate very clearly. In VC works with very strong professionals. They want someone who can articulate themselves well to them, the GPs, the LPs, and the founders. That's really key. There's one takeaway I'd give to any of my clients to work with: just be a structured thinker. Structure just shows intelligence. It shows logic. I think this is also why MBB tend to do quite well in recruitment processes, because that is drilled into them, that structure and clarity of thought. And that's really important. Yeah, I'd 100% agree with, because it's a great point. Like, it's about longevity of the fund. It's about seeing if you've got the networking potential and if you can see how you work quite well. Pitching and working with founders is, again, important. This also comes, I guess, to dig down more specifically just interpersonal skills. And just having the ability to work well and being able to say, hey, I met this individual at X. He's fantastic for 3 reasons. 1, he went to Stanford. 2, he's actually raising right now. He's developed a proprietary product. And 3, he's somewhat close to having product market fit. Is it worth having a coffee? If you give an introduction like that, I think it's useful because even if they don't look to make an investment, it's just someone that you've had. It's a reasonable assumption to make. This person may go into something pretty strong, or 2, they may have a co-network of individuals which you can make introductions to further. So that's really important. Again, generating deal flow is just king. Let's be honest. Yeah. If you said that you just literally hammer the phones and you will show creative ways of generating deal flow, that would be great. So just a question, what inventive ways could one look to generate deal flow whilst I change my camera? And be as creative as you want. I've heard some fantastic explanations. Yeah.
Advise startups.
That's a fantastic one. Yeah, completely agree.
You get on the cap table. They like your advice.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. What else? Yeah.
We go where founders meet. So startup accelerators, like meetup, also talking to people, like there's students here, talking to people who are looking to raise in the future.
Awesome. Yep. Yep. Sorry. Sorry. Yeah. Sorry. Yeah.
I was gonna say read Reddit.
That's a fantastic one. That's literally what I was going to say. Reddit is fantastic. So right now, one of the person in process, he literally said a very creative way. What he would do is go on, subreddits where programmers would hang out and coders would hang out, and they would discuss really interesting things. So yeah, definitely generating deal flow is absolute king, and showing creativity in that is really important. Startup experience, I'd say for me, I think it's difficult to say that you're interested in VC if you just don't have startup experience. For me, it's an absolute must to have that. So it doesn't also have to be uber sexy. People think you need to be the next Peter Thiel. You don't. It could just be very simple. To give an example, there was one guy, he was interviewing for KKR, but I think it's very relevant because I think he's a very VC placeable candidate. He was from one of the top universities in Amsterdam. He developed somehow a proprietary relationship with beer pong, the red cup things, and he got the exclusive supply of beer pong cups to his university. I think it was Rotterdam. And basically, in term time, he would sell these products to parties all across Holland. This turned out to be amazing because he was just literally seeing it as a market and as a demand, and he's monopolizing on it, which is fantastic. This went down so well with the client. It just showed that this hustle is entrepreneurial and it's what a VC wants to see. And even KKR loved it. They're a PE firm. That's great. Cool. So from a recruiter's perspective, what do you think one can do to improve your profile? Please shout out, please. Yeah. Please let me know what you guys think. Yeah.
First, you mentioned there's writing articles on the blog, having a social presence, urban award that you're mentioning, doing DD for startups.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
I think if you have startup experience, showing the depth of the results
Yeah.
you've gotten.
Definitely.
If you didn't do startup experience, maybe the breadth of different industries you've worked with, because that could show how adept you are in looking into different industries, potential startups as well.
Yeah, that's a great point. We prefer people going a mile deep than a mile wide. To robotics, femtech, if it's consumer SaaS, know everything about that one specific thing. Why is that important? Because you'll be known as the go-to guy for whatever, robotics. That depth, that clarity is something that you can add value to, because once you're recruiting in conversation, how they generally look for, and then if you can come in and say, I can plug a gap of knowledge, which is X, that's fantastic because you can just develop the area. So yes, we really recommend having a really deep understanding of one thing. It's going way down into it, because even if you interview somewhere and you blow them away with their technical skill, by your skill set and understanding of an area, and the VC isn't looking to expand their investment thesis, they will just refer you to their buddies. If you're known as the guy who knows everything about X, or the girl about X, who writes about articles, who involved in startups, who mentor startups in that area, people will refer you, and the world is small. And if you have a strong track record and you're kind of passionate about something, good things happen. So definitely I recommend that. So my key headline here, I really want to emphasize, is you don't need to be in VC to be a VC. There's only one thing to take away from this conversation, is you do not need to be in VC to be a VC at all. I'll talk a lot more about this now shortly. So then you can see the presentation. If you could just do one thing from your side, what would it be? It could be nothing as well. You could just vibe. It's all good. Yeah.
I think it'll be for me meeting and interviewing founders. I've heard that your .edu is pretty far from a VC and founder perspective, and I really want to talk that I would have as much exposure to doing that, so I can also then generate deal flow from that.
Yeah. That's really, really good. That's really important. It shows us proactivity and strength. So, one, setting up networking events. This is amazing because literally you'll be known as a fulcrum of social activity. I just feel as a cool person, bringing people together. That is absolutely invaluable because you'll be seen as a sociable person. People come there and you can start having invite-only networking events. You could bring in a great founder. You could bring in a great VC. It just shows this real depth and proactivity. I definitely recommend setting up networking events. It could just be like attendees of 5 or 10 is better than nothing. And you can just put it on your profile. And it's just about developing that for sure. Meeting and interviewing founders is also really, really key because at the end of the day, founders want VC investments, right? If you're in a position where you're able to speak with so many founders and have conversations with them, it just builds your own profile. And they may even come to you and say, hey, I'm looking to raise capital. Can you put me in touch with someone? So that's key. Raising founders. Founders want to get VC capital. That's really important too. Building market maps. So do we have an idea of what this is? Bother, do you want to just shout out with your promotion? What do you think that might mean?
Yeah, so looking into like different types of verticals and trying to understand like the landscape of what it entails to actually grow in the next 10 years in that industry, how will it change? And then using that initiative to drill into what type of companies will help build that.
Yeah, definitely. It's about having a granular academic approach. Yeah, it's about having that granular and academic approach, just really owning an area and understanding it. And I think that's really important. And being able to present this to someone who currently works in VC and it's a partner is great because you could say you're actually going out and doing stuff. And if they use your market map, that's brilliant. It shows you're actually adding value. Yeah.
I'll have 2 follow-up questions on this.
Yeah,
So
please.
how do you build one? Like, what are the different steps and like research that you do? What are the steps that you talk to people? And second is, how do you present this in which format? You do like a 20-page deck, or is it just something that you talk about?
Great question. Thank you for asking. There's no one specific way, but you could just build an Excel sheet, perhaps. Build an Excel sheet. You could just draw a visual thing where you could just say, I don't know, London EdTech, and just put areas there and looking at pre-seed, etc. That's really good. Oh, in the format, it could be a deck, it could be a spreadsheet, it varies. But the key thing is having that information on a one-pager, concrete and specific. Writing articles and startup is absolutely, I think, one that I definitely just say most people can do. Just write, get your brand out there. That's just very, very important. Making angel investments, I would say, is very easy to do, but not many people do it. This actually shows you have skin in the game and you're actually wanting.
A question about the networking events, is that just for like founders or you try to bring VCs as well as founders to these networking events?
No, it could be both. I just think about developing with networking an ecosystem of people who want to get into the same goal. Because if you're building a tribe of people, you're just bringing people who are more similar to that. So whether it is founders or whether it is, investors. Angel investments is really, really key because literally there's nothing stopping anyone going in here today and like going on Angel List or wherever and making $100 investment. And that's powerful because just say you're really interested in EdTech and you go into an interview and say, I made 4 investments in the EdTech industry. I think it's really interesting. It's a good conversation to have. So making angel investments is powerful and it's proactive. It's not just someone saying I read Crunchbase every day, which is really great. I back Crunchbase, but it's about taking the step beyond because fundamentally we are all applying. So 0.01% of elite and statistically competitive careers in the world. It is about passing the first round CV stage. Working at an incubator is great because you just meet people, you'll know people, you'll find out with them. They may be raising around. You may find out some good things and you can just pass that information on to a founder. So to give an example, you could literally be like, hey, I mentioned before, we've seen someone really good. He's looking to raise around. Let's have a conversation. And last but not least, investing in equities. There's nothing wrong with that. You're again investing. It just solidifies your profile because you can say, hey, I make investments in EdTech. I also invest in, say, Byju's in India, which is a unicorn. So I've developed my profile and you can steer the conversation in an interview around saying perhaps, it's interesting to follow a company from early stage, right, say seed, whatever, and you can see how it's mature and it develops. That'd be quite an interesting conversation for a growth equity firm rather than a VC one, but we're still working with startups, so it's really cool. So, what do recruiters look for in a candidate? Yeah.
Charisma.
Definitely. So with VC, it's especially important to be charismatic, engaging, and sparky. Sparky is a word that we would use. It's just that someone who brings energy and dynamism. It's absolutely critical to have this. Recruiting is very clear if someone was a VC candidate or a P candidate within 5 minutes. It's very clear. A guy from Apollo or a girl from Apollo is clearly very different to someone who works at Atomico. It just black and white, night and day, if you just realize it. But look for charisma for multiple reasons. One, people are charismatic, get further, they influence people, and founders trust them. Yeah, we can dig a lot more deeper into it, but charisma is super important. But second, I think to a point prior in the presentation, you're looking for future partners. You don't hire in VC for 2 years or 3 years. You ideally look for someone for the long term. So charisma is absolutely critical. A great point and well spotted out. So in terms of this, we'll look in more detail. What tangibly can we do to improve your profiles from a resume perspective? One, I'm fairly confident we're comfortable here in this, but having impact on every single thing you do. That's very, very important, especially from a startup perspective. To go a bit deeper into this, what I would suggest is, again, there's no perfect CV format, no matter what Wall Street Oasis says. It's not. Have a piece, an area, that has investing in or startup experience. Because that way, when a recruiter is scanning your CV, they can see you've got actual startup experience. That's what they want to see. Investing or startup. And then within investing, you could put angel investments and other things. And startup, you could write, for instance, mentoring someone, being a guide to an individual, helping individuals background develop their startups too. That's really important. Startup experience, again, I would say is critical. We need to develop it. I probably wouldn't bring a candidate forward for that. Investment experience. So, as mentioned a second ago. Meetings. So, coffee meetings in the Wharf. Yes. Energy and charisma was there in the third one there. Investment acumen is absolutely key when assessing a candidate. It's very important for them to explain why they think something is good, what's the upside on something, what's the downside, if the market is right, if the founder's good, does it make sense? Have they got any other track record apart from that? What are the projects there? That's really important. Investment acumen is critical because you're investing. It's really important. Being thoughtful and considered is very important. And just being able to have that gravitas and really absorbing and not just speaking really quickly is a very small point, but they want someone who's thoughtful and considered because fundamentally, as a VC investor, you're an advisor to founders. So founders may ring you about lots of different things. They may ring you if they broke up with their girlfriend. Genuinely has happened. Their car's crashed. But also they could genuinely ring you about other things such as strategic advice. So being thoughtful and considered is very, very important. Energy and charisma covered. And fourthly, a very, very clear why VC story. It needs to be very clear and obvious why VC. So we suggest like a 3-part narrative of like interest in VC started, interest in VC developed, and interest in VC was confirmed. Having a 3-part structure in our perspective works. So just now I'm going to show this out there. What do we think an effective why VC story could be?
If you want to be an entrepreneur and if you want to start something of your own, you might want to like see the startup space through the investing world and see how it is.
Yeah.
How you start something of your own.
Yeah, fantastic. I think, it's very much the company building part and supporting people building exceptional companies that fundamentally change the world, right? Like Zoom, Spotify, these are not just businesses, they've changed the world because like whenever you're on a commute, you can listen to a lot of Drake or whoever, right? It's a vibe. But yeah, that's really important. And yes, you definitely get a bar of chocolate for the enthusiasm for this. Thank you, Joe. No worries. Anybody else? Anybody else with the YV?
I would probably try to make it quite like value-based and the desire of being impactful. Depends what sort of VC fund we're talking about, but what are the value? But about like changing a specific industry, might it be healthcare, might it be a tech or whatever it is. I think the concept of value driven is very important.
That's a great point because it is fundamentally about adding value. Definitely, startup founders.
It could be you're a former entrepreneurial startup person and you want more leverage, you want more exposure to certain sectors and wider reach.
Yeah, definitely. And also, where are you from in England? It's the first British accent in 4 days. Love it. Yeah, clear why VC story. And lastly, beer buddy test. This is a very important test. Would you go out with a drink with this person? This definitely exists in evaluating candidates. Absolutely, no doubt. Because like you want to be able to, obviously, you deal with some very intelligent, exceptional people, but sometimes you're working late nights. Are you going to be able to enjoy your time with them? Do you do interesting things? It could be whatever you do, right? But passing that test is very important. In terms of profiles, more specifically, authentic, being yourself, having a range of interests is very important. Why? Because founders have a very diverse range of interests. If you love manga, back yourself and love manga. If you like soccer, say you love football, but soccer, say it. Sorry. If you love, like cricket, like IPL, say it. Because founders like these things. You can have a conversation, and this builds rapport. And this is very, very important. Some people, I really advise against it, decide to tone themselves down. Like, if you like Metallica, back yourself, like Metallica. Because some guys code really well to Metallica. That could be a conversation. So we definitely recommend being authentic. Being personable attaches to charisma, for sure. I think it's really important because you need to be someone that's an advisor and people trust. Clean social media. Now, this is a mega, super important point. I cannot emphasize this point enough. I will give a case study now on clean social media. There was a chap who was interviewing a top fund, like really great fund. He was really good, to be fair, great acumen, really smart, polished and really good. And he got to the final stages where it was literally like coffee chat or just drinks round. They decided to audit a DD on him, on his Instagram. I wish I was making this up. I'm genuinely not. One, he put his Instagram on public, which is fine. But he was literally talking about models and bottles. And that was it. Very inappropriate Instagram captions, putting like 5 Rolexes on his wrists. I don't know why I need 5. There was loads, like talking about being Cron and how this restaurant, which is obviously fine, but it was just the expression of it. But very questionable things. He was about to get the offer. He got a verbal offer, but they withdrew the formal offer because quite literally they were like, we cannot present this to our investors. No matter what your network is, no matter what your net value is. He was like some guy, don't know, he has some amazing background, but clean social media is important. Please focus on this. I really can't emphasize enough. Some people are almost there with the offer, but don't get it because they say something. VC recruitment is definitely an art. It's not a science. It's not, black and white. It's competitive. They are the best of the best in the world who are applying. Everyone's exceptional. There's human bias involved. With the recruitment process, again, varies from organization to organization, but generally speaking, fit interview, looking to find out more about the person, assessing skills, etc. Partner interview, depends again, this can be switched up, of course. Case study, looking at your commercial acumen, presentation, and drinks as well. So candidate ranking. So this is basically super important. So star candidates is someone who will definitely get into VC. Now, a star means different things in different places. A star for some organizations, they mean someone directly placeable. For others, it just means someone who's exceptional. But it's generally someone, so I'll give a star example. There was a guy who, from Australia, he got the world's best university there. He got a first, he then swam for the Olympics, got a bronze, and then after that, he came to Cambridge. He got a first in law from Homerton College. Then he ran an incubator and he raised funding all around. It was ridiculous. Good. So he's that example. But good candidates, again, probably very similar, but not as developed investor acumen. Thirdly, average, just haven't really done the homework. They just think the recruitment process is not serious, which has definitely had them to detriment. And for green is people who's not developed, I'd say, from that perspective. So in terms of interview, how you can excel, being really structured, very important. We're using the STAR model. We've adapted this to the STAR 3 model. So basically situation, task, action.
Number one.
So I would say the biggest stage is actually getting to interview. Actually passing interview. I'd say getting past the recruiter is the biggest hurdle. Because once you pass that, there's certainty. But the biggest barrier, like recruitment's a funnel, the biggest barrier is actually getting to interview. But in terms of the process itself, sometimes it's a case study. Because sometimes they struggle to clarify what they think is good and important. But yes, so in terms of this, yes, the STAR 3 model is very important. One really powerful thing at interview to do is be contrarian. Sounds ironic, but definitely go against the grain and say something that you think is different, but is valid and qualified. It shows you've thought about the process and you actually can give an opinion that's not mainstream. As long as it's qualified and reasonable and educated, people are open to it. Obviously, don't select their investments. Not what we want to do, but being reasonable is important. Being thoughtful and considered, going deeper what I've covered, but pitching yourself effectively is very, very important. Some of the questions that I would typically ask in an interview, many we ask, but how do you value your business plan? What makes a good investment? Yeah, can you explain why a company went the way they did? If you raise a round, what chief strategic person would you hire? That's a really important one because you can think about the founder both have technical skill sets. It could be a salesperson or it could be someone different. That very much varies. And then commitment. What have you personally invested in? Why not growth equity? Why not PE? Why not corporate law, etc.? So cool. Just want to try to detail about that. And just about ourselves, what we do is we focus on helping people explicitly get into elite careers like venture capital. So we go with that side. We also hire for VC firms too. This presentation is about VC, but we work all across PE, consulting, IBD, not there, and corporate law. So we go right way across that. Our recruiters, we have a framework, a network of recruiters from elite industries, and that is what we exclusively focus on. What we do and what we help with is basically helping get into VC and elite industries. So he has just raised a round of $250K for his own edtech startup. He's hired someone from Meta and he's looking to move that. And we're glad he's doing so well. Takeaways from this, I say 3 things are really important. Structure is absolutely critical to excel. Be proactive. You don't need to be a VC to go into VC. And hustle. It's very possible to get in. It's hard, but it's very doable. And actually, we're recruiting as well. So I promised to Vardays that we'd have 2 people from HBS that we would bring forward for the VC firm that I'm hiring for. One including the London Interdisciplinary School, which is changing the way universities operate. 2, I'm actually hiring for myself some MBA interns, which will look to get involved in some strategy projects. I'm really interested to get involved in that. And thirdly, I know we're talking about the dark side of IBD conversation, but I'm hiring for a top Indian investment bank all the way from associate to MD level internationally in India, the UK. So please do apply for roles on the website. We can have a chat and see what we can do. I'll be here for the next few days and let's catch up and be in person. Be fantastic. Thank you very much.